Hello, Guardians, and welcome to Destiny Reset, episode 152. This podcast is about anything and everything related to the Destiny franchise. If you love playing Destiny 2 as much as we do, you're in the right place. This reset, we talk about the previews for what's coming this summer and beyond, and we welcome special guest Tim Clark as we talk all about our excitement for Forsaken and what it's like to cover Destiny for PC Gamer. Hello, Guardians, and welcome. It's AER0KNIGHT and CyborgSasquatch. Hello, my friend.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
I feel like I just saw you.
I know, right?
Or talked to you.
A few days ago. Just a few days ago.
It's going good, though. Well, it's copacetic. I got in between when we last met, came down with a nasty illness. And am now recovering, but I'm getting better, so it didn't last too long. But I'm here, and I have my voice, and, could be worse.
I know it's always funny when we get colds, and then then you start to notice it starts affecting your voice, and then you start to count how many days we have until we're recording, and
and you're like,
can I get my voice back in time?
I'm okay in time for this day, But I'm here and ready to talk about Destiny. And we've got some exciting things in the show this week for our listeners. So
we do.
Let's get it going, man.
Let's do it. We got a quick announcement reminder. I told you guys about this last week. We are doing a Blue giveaway, of course, as usual. Our amazing sponsors, Blue. We are asking you guys. We're celebrating 3 years. We told you this last episode. 3 years of Destiny Reset. It's craziness. And we want to know, you listeners out there, your favorite moments from the show over these last 3 years. We want you to email us at destinyresetpodcast@gmail.com or send us a SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/destinyreset and let us know. It can be anything, any moment you remember. Even if you want to pick fun, we're totally fine with making fun of ourselves. So have at it.
And one of those people who submit something will win a Blue Yeti microphone or a pair of Blue Lolas, their choice, and they will be shipped anywhere in the world, so anyone is eligible.
Yes.
So send along your favorite moment. We'd love to hear it.
You have until July 10th.
That's right.
Guardians.
Now for some news. Shall we?
Let's do it. We got,
all right,
as usual, super meaty twab, didn't we?
Yep. This week at Bungie, the factions are vying for your pledge. And it seems like everybody pledged Future War Cult this round.
Seems
we'll
like
see
it.
Who's going to win.
I did not, but it's
a lot of people did. They talk a little bit about some after Expo feedback from some of the folks, the away team of official spokespersons who went out to E3, and seems they were all very excited to reveal what they did at E3 and are excited for us to get our hands on it. So they mentioned next stop, Tampa, Florida, where they'll have an away team over at Guardian Con, and they're going to share in the TWAB next week who the away team is going to be, along with what they have planned for their main stage time at Guardian Con. So we have that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bring in the latest build of Gambit, which will be interesting.
Right.
See if
I'm finally going to get to play.
Anybody. Yes, it's exciting, dude. I can't wait to hear what you think. Yeah. See if there's any new little secrets in there, some new gear or something. Yeah.
I'm going to look. Next up, they give us a little bit of a calendar for the rest of the summer, at least loosely. So we know what's going down. So we know, of course, July 3rd through 9th, we've got Faction Rallies Winners Week. We've got Mayhem on the Crucible playlist. Bungie Day, of course, is coming up July 7th. Then following that, July 10th through 16th, we get Iron Banner, as well as Guardian Con, July 13th, 14th. Next up, July 17th through 23rd, we get Update 1.2.3 on July 17th. We get the final faction rallies of Season 3, Supremacy is on the Crucible playlist. And then July 24th through 30th, Faction Rallies Winners Week. Doubles on the Crucible playlist. And then finally, July 31st, Solstice of Heroes begins.
Man, I'm excited because we have family vacation the week that the patch is going to drop. And I thought that Solstice of Heroes was also going to be that week. So I'm honestly excited. It's a little bit later.
Yeah, and it
I'll be back
seems like, I don't know if they're going to do another Iron Banner, but they mentioned this is the final faction rally of Season 3. Now, Season 3 is going to extend all the way until September. So I wonder, it sounds like Solstice of Heroes might be something that goes on, I mean, almost a month plus.
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking this week too, as we've mentioned many times, like it would be really cool. We talk about it every time an expansion's coming out to get some sort of heralding event before Forsaken. That was always cool to have in Destiny 1. But if they run Solstice of Heroes, you know, pretty close to the release, I mean, that would suffice as well. That would be cool to have something going on that long.
Something fun to keep us busy for a while.
Yep.
I guess we've still got some time to find out what that's going to be. Next up, we get an early preview of some Crucible changes coming with a 1.2.3 update. So,
dude,
here we go. Crucible playlist, quick play. You're going to have 6v6. They're removing Supremacy, updating the scores for Control and Clash. Competitive, they're lowering the bomb fuse timer from 40 to 35 seconds. Rumble becomes a full-time playlist. Supremacy is added to the weekly featured playlist, updated to 6v6, the new win score. Finally, Crucible ranks. Here's a big one. Players will be able to earn Valor rank from additional playlists. Competitive, Crucible Labs, Iron Banner, and Trials of the Nine. How about that?
I gotta say, man, we talked about, we were talking about this on Twitter today, and people listening to the show remembered us talking about it a couple weeks ago. And I was hot and heavy on, man, like, come on, Valor and Iron Banner just makes sense, guys. Like, it totally makes sense. Let's do this. And you, as everyone knows, you had that great idea of why not make it everything? And we literally talked it out on that episode. And I even went back to it and I'm like, dude, that makes so much sense. Like, you're right. Why not have it? And I don't know that I heard that anywhere else, man. So,
I don't know. I can't be the only person who felt that way or said that.
I don't know though, dude. That specific thing, like, I have not come across that anywhere. So I'm sure there's a lot of Guardians out there. Somebody did something similar, but the important thing is they're listening and implementing this so fast.
It feels good to be heard.
Dude, I'm telling you. Like, and it's so cool.
I definitely feel heard and validated.
Yeah, it's fantastic, dude. Valor rank is now what you described it as in your idea. It is a general Crucible rank. No matter what you're doing in the Crucible, you're gonna increase and level your Valor. And if you want to get sweaty and competitive, then go grind some glory, of course, in the competitive playlist. So this is, dude, I'm pumped, man. I'm as pumped about this one as one coming up here in just a couple, but great idea, dude.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's going to make people, have an additional, layer of reward to any playtime they put into the Crucible,
Yep. I forgot it. Last week we talked so much on Iron Banner and our incentive to want to play it this last go round. And I got to thinking about it after the episode. I'm like, I'll tell you what'll get me in the Iron Banner. The video I made and the thing we talked about a couple episodes ago. Throw Valor rank on top of it. That's immediate incentive for me to jump in there.
Yeah, it's funny how just every little layer and everything makes a difference. Just a combination of like small things. Yep. That's great. It's great that they made a change that quick, and I think everybody will be pleased with that change. Now, there's also some changes to how Valor and Glory are going to work as well. Joining a game in progress will protect your Valor win streak for that game. So if you lose, there's no penalty. If you win, it increases. So it's going to solve that problem. Joining games in progress, that are about to lose, because that's usually what happens if you join a game in progress. bunch of people bailed, and there's not much you can do to turn it around a lot of times. So that's a needed quality of life change. Players, the biggest thing that I didn't expect is that they're going to match players by their glory rank.
This is huge, man.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I'm 100% on board. We've been talking about it for a while in our play sessions, and I'm sure there's more factors that go on behind the scene, but from our perspective, to me, it makes sense, and to others that I've been talking to, that if you're going to grind glory out, it makes sense to play people that are at a similar skill set than you. Granted, the matchmaking might already be doing that, but that's what a ranking system is. Like, matchmake us to people with similar ranks, because you can decrease your rank, so if you're losing, you're going back down, and it's going to get more difficult the higher you climb into it. And I don't know, I am this and the Valor rank change. I immediately tweeted out these two things are fantastic to me. But I mean, what do you think? You sound like maybe you're not 100% on board with that.
I'm just imagining where, the higher up you get, the harder it's going to be to climb, and maybe that's okay.
Well, right now it feels like, and maybe you might be right. We might be in for a shock here, but right now, man, it's like we're at the high tier every game we play. It's
and I think part of it is the population is kind of low,
right?
And there's a lot of people in there really sweating.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see. How this goes, but I think it's going to change the dynamics a little bit, and we'll see how it affects, in time. They also have retuned glory loss streaks to be less punishing. So consecutive losses will decrease the rank points lost instead of increasing, and streaks will still cap out at 5.
Yeah, I think it's just a balancing thing, man. Like, I don't want it to be an easy grind. I don't want to not sweat at all. That's the whole point. It's competitive. But I think this is just fine tuning at this point. It's a great system, way more than I thought we were going to get when they launched it. And, these little tweaks like this are great. They're figuring out exactly what it needs to be, or what they and we want it to be, So this very well, this may not be exactly it after we play it for a little bit, but, we're getting closer. So,
yeah, it's iteration, and the more nimble they can be about, improving and iterating on things, the closer we'll get to something that I think everybody will enjoy and feel is fair. And, like they said in the beginning, this is a foundation for a system they want to build on over time. So there's plenty of room to improve it and play with it over time. So, every time they can tinker with it and see what happens is going to be better.
Yeah, I love that Iron Banner is in Valor now, dude, because like we said, a lot of people don't play a lot of Crucible, and when they do, it's Iron Banner. So it's really cool that they're going to rank their Valor up for some of those rewards at Shaxx, just when Iron Banner comes back around. So I'm excited about that.
Next up, we get a preview of the Prestige difficulty for the Raid Lairs. So they give a little preview for what we're going to expect. Something new and interesting is an introduction of 400 power weapons. So they mentioned we'll be able to get, they say the only way to get 400 power armor before Forsaken is by participating in Summer Solstice. But the only way to get 400 power weapons before Forsaken is by completing Prestige, Spire of Stars, and Eater of Worlds. So every time you complete all the encounters in a Prestige raid lair each week, you'll be rewarded a 400 power raid weapon. This can be any raid weapon from Destiny 2, not just the raid weapons that drop in that raid lair. Also, they'll have the raid lair ornaments, which was confirmed on Twitter to be the same that you can preview now, in the tower, I think, at the vendor and on the gear. And then both raid lairs have a Masterwork exotic catalyst that can be found as a rare drop in that activity. So what they're going to be doing with these are we're going to have a curated weapon suite and a global activity modifier each week that changes, but will be the same across both activities each week. So they mentioned curated weapon loadouts are based on weapon archetypes. So you'll see combinations, for instance, like auto rifle / submachine gun / sniper rifle, or a scout rifle, hand cannon, rocket launcher combo. So your loadout is not locked, so you can swap out the different types of guns in those archetypes. If you want to use a different auto rifle for different parts of the encounter, stuff like that. And then they mentioned there's 3 different activity modifiers. 2 are brand new and they don't tell us what they are, but one is Prism. And they are each designed with advantages over your enemies when you lean into it. So they're typically things that will give you an advantage, whether it's increased damage or, something to that effect. So it's not something that's punishing, it sounds like. And they mentioned the goal of these play styles is to change the way you engage with the prestige raid each week. They're not changing anything mechanically to the prestige versions. They mentioned that basically they wanted to ship the raid layers with the normal modes having the most complete form of the experience, and to offer difference in variety with the small per encounter changes with these loadouts and modifiers. So they also mentioned they believe the mechanical complexity in the raid layers is pretty high, which I agree with. So changing that could make things pretty drastically difficult, in my opinion. So it makes total sense. So these both are planned to be available right when the patch goes live. They mentioned the middle of July. And Prestige Leviathan is going to stay exactly the same. But they did mention that Callus could have a way to enhance one of your favorite exotic shotguns. So my guess is the exotic catalyst for
Acreus.
Acreus, yeah.
Yeah.
Which word on the street is a increased reload time and expanded magazine. Just gonna make that thing even
Painful.
nastier. There was some stuff data mined this week. I don't know if you caught that on Reddit.
Oh yeah. The
Something
activity stuff?
relating to something called Arms Week.
Yeah. Yep.
And a whole bunch of new catalysts. I don't know. Maybe
People are speculating we might finally see because the spindle catalyst has been in the database. It doesn't actually say spindle. I think it says classified, but speculation that we might finally see it with this new live event.
We shall see.
Maybe. What do you think about, real quick? It's always weird when you can only get something from one side of the game. This just dropped today. We're recording on Thursday, so we haven't seen a lot of the community's feedback yet. Do you think it's interesting? You think the community's going to think it's interesting that you can only get 400 power level weapons from running PvE raids and not maybe an alternative for trials?
In reality, getting 400 power stuff is inconsequential.
Right. But, people... a lot of people don't look at it that way. They're not going to be able to get 400 power level weapons if they don't run raids.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like, the easy solution. I say easy. It's easy for us to say easy. Would be to give us 400 power level weapons from trials, like Spire visits. And what I don't get is why even have it at all. Yeah. I guess it's a sense of progression. But now it's only a sense of progression for half of say half of the community. There's a lot of people, we know the numbers, at this moment we don't, but a lot of people that don't raid.
The only thing that I know that an increase in power level would help with is escalation protocol and the raid layers.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm aware of.
All PvE. Yeah.
Yeah, that increase in power would help with. So
that's very true. Power doesn't matter on the other side of the game.
It doesn't matter in PvP now. So,
very true.
You know, all it's doing is like reinforcing the ability to run the activity. But still, I don't see much of a purpose. Like it's gonna be useful for such a short period of time that it's almost pointless. Like it's that whole thing. Like when you know something is coming down the line, it's like, why would I chase 400 when as soon as I pop in, you know, Forsaken, like my power is going to rise above that so fast, and I'm not even going to have to try, you know? Yeah. So I don't know.
I guess, you know, I mean, it's July 17th, so, you know, roughly not quite a month and a half of at least some sort of progression. But
some people will chase it, but
yeah, it's interesting though that I just found it interesting that when I reading that it was straight up just from the 2 raid layers. There's the only way you can get. I guess what makes it even more specific is it is weapons, and then everyone will be able to get armor from Solstice of Heroes. But if you want weapons, you gotta go raid.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's still cool though.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
All right, next up, costs and collections. So we finally get some insight on how collections are going to work. So what items will year 1 inventory, let me rephrase that. What items from year 1 inventory will collections track? Any weapon, armor piece, ghost ship, sparrow, emblem, or shader available in Destiny Year 1. Destiny 2 Year 1. And then the big question, is there anything I can dismantle before Forsaken launches? So if you have something in your inventory now, you can discard it and retrieve it from collections in September. The cutoff for your collection was anything that was in your inventory or vault upon the launch of Warmind. So anything you've had since then will be in your collections. If you dismantled an item prior to May 8th, it will not be available within your collections.
There you go.
And then moving forward, year 2 items, they mention with the addition of random perk rolls to items starting in year 2, we had to make a tough call for collections. We investigated numerous options for gear with random perks, fixed collection perks, buyback limits, reroll mechanics, and many others. But each of these came with issues that impacted the collection's experience in a negative manner. Ultimately, we decided to disable purchase of all year 2 randomly rolled legendary weapons and armor. So they say we don't like keeping some items from experiencing the full collection's treatment, so we're looking at a long-term solve for storing your exact perk rolls in collections.
It is weird. Like when I read that, it's odd that this new awesome looking collection system isn't going to house any of the new weapons. I completely understand their challenge here.
It's a good stopgap because it's going to allow us to basically purge all of our old stuff without feeling like we lose it.
Yeah.
And we're also getting, you know, they're doing the decent thing and increasing our vault so that we'll have even more room for all this year 2 stuff. And additionally, we're going to be able to clear out shaders. We're going to be able to clear out extra ships and sparrows and ghosts, and all that stuff can take up room too. So it's obviously they haven't gotten the system perfect, but I think it's going to work for a while.
Oh yeah.
But I can see, you know, like that was something in the back of my mind. I was like, so I know they're not going to allow us to stick something with a random roll in and then pay to have it, you know, come back out with a new random roll, because that would just become the new re-roll mechanic. Mm-hmm. But it's also very difficult to basically store all the values of, okay, what is your exact roll on a gun? Because that's just basically the vault. Right?
Yep. It's almost like
the vault system is a different, like, set in volume of data associated with the player than saying, okay, there's a binary value for each thing in the game that's fixed and a person, that flips a switch if you get it, right?
Right.
So then you can go pull it out if you want. They've got something to figure out.
I totally get that challenge for sure. I can't imagine. It's like just thinking off the top of my head, like as you're talking about it, it's like we save the role we want, and that's what will always be in our collections. But like you said, it's easy to say and want that, but there's a lot that would have to go on behind the scenes, I'm sure, to make that happen. It is weird though, like I mentioned, that we're gonna have this new collection system, and we're gonna get all our old stuff, right? Yeah. But it's fine. We'll have vault space. We got random rolls back. Like it'll be fine.
It's progress.
Yes, it's
progress.
It'll be just fine.
They mention they don't have a definitive answer on costs for item acquisition, but their goal is that reacquisition is not a currency sink, and we don't want players to have to deal with currency conversions. So if a shader dismantles into Glimmer, it costs Glimmer. If it came from Eververse, it dismantles into Bright Dust and costs Bright Dust. So the same is true with collection items. So it's a 1-to-1, you get out what you put in. Mm-hmm. They mention with shaders, they're going to remove the cost to apply shaders to gear, which I think is great.
Yes.
But you will have to, if you want multiple copies of a specific shader, you'll have to pay, Glimmer or what have you to get more copies.
It sounds like you have to unlock it too, the way they described it. Like once you get one, then you can purchase it. Kind of seems like
the case, yeah.
Yeah. It seems like, with the system that's in D2, it's kind of creating a hybrid of what we used to have with Destiny 1. Yeah. That won't cost thousands of Glimmer. Right. It's easily accessible once you get one and unlock it, and then it won't cost thousands of Glimmer to apply it if you change your mind on your fashion.
And I'm sure we'll probably still get like multiple copies of shaders and stuff, just like any other piece of gear. Mm-hmm. So you can get some without having to purchase them, but then if you don't want a bunch of those, you can feel great about, well, I'll just dismantle this because I don't want these, but I think it's turn that Glimmer into this other shader I like, right?
Yep.
And I can always come back and get that shader. So I think it'll be a good system. Especially all you Metro Shift lovers. Next up, we have over in Destiny Player Support. They seem to have solved the problem with Lupus Visage, the ornament for Fighting Lion. They had a deployment of hotfix 1.2.1.2, so it should be solved now. There's some problems with permissions in Russia, and they're working on that. Long story short, there is also a known issue of players reporting they kept their allegiance from last faction rally, even after pledging to a different faction. So if you are encountering that, or you did encounter that, submit a report in the help forums. Finally, we had our movies of the week. And next week, we will have more interesting stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, we've got plenty to talk about over the next few weeks. I was going to mention too, there was one more little bullet point in there that was actually pretty interesting. I didn't back to the collections. They said that when you pull something out of the collection, it will be close to your power level. You won't.
They did.
You won't have to infuse it, which is pretty cool. They want you to be able to use it right away. I thought that was cool. I was just thinking by default, of course we'll have to have some infusion fuel for it. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty neat.
That's handy, because you don't want to I want to use this armor piece, and you pull it out and it's like 300 light or whatever.
Or 10.
Yeah, or like 10. Yeah, and you're like, okay, well now I got to have a chest to put into it, right? So that is great. They do mention though that if you want it to be useful in end game activities, that you may have to infuse it up.
Right.
So my guess is, there's probably like a cap that it's probably going to work, if I have to guess, similar to like that, like there's that soft cap where stuff will decode like only up to a certain level for you.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be similar to that.
So usable, but not
right.
Not at the maximum level.
Yeah. But that's some smart thinking.
Yes.
Some good foresight there.
Well,
all right, man. I think that's all the news we have this week because it's Thursday. And so if anything happened over the weekend, guys, we'll just have to catch up to it next week.
Yes. We'll be back next week.
Yeah. Now we've got a sponsor this week we'd like to give a shout out to. And the website is called shirtpunch.com. And we've got a cool promo code for you over there. But first, let's tell you a little bit about it. So Shirt Punch is our sponsor, as we told you, and they're the best place on the internet to grab limited edition pop culture t-shirts. And they do things kind of different and cool. Every day, they have 4 new designs that are only up for 24 hours, and they're on sale for only $10. $10 each for a shirt. It's a pretty good price for a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And they do some cool stuff. They have glow-in-the-dark shirts, metallic prints. They also have a selection of gallery tees, which I think are stuff like that you can buy anytime, right? And they've got something professed for every fandom, gamer, anime fans, horror movies, a lot more. So they want you to check it out every day so you don't miss something cool. When you find something that you love, you can use a promo code. It's POD10. During checkout, you get 10% off your order just for our listeners. And they do ship internationally, North America to Australia and everywhere in between. And we got a pretty cool shirt to check this out. And
yes,
you were pretty happy with your purchase, huh?
Yes. As you guys know, we always like to test stuff out and check it out and see what we think. And this is some good stuff. These shirts are great. We got one in, and it's like a character that looks very similar to Link with a possible glove that looks very similar to a Thanos that some may know. And it's awesome. The quality's great. So we checked it out for you guys, and definitely
nice shirt quality, nice looking print. So shirtpunch.com, promo code is POD10, 10% off. Right now today I'm looking and they've got some pretty cool designs, and go check it out.
Do it,
Guardians. All right. Next up, we've got an awesome interview for you guys. We've got a special guest that we asked to come on the show that we knew loved Destiny and has been covering it for quite a while. So what do you say we take a listen?
Let's do it.
All right, and we're here with our special guest, Tim Clark, the global editor-in-chief of PC Gamer. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
How are you, man?
Yeah, not too bad. Good, tired. Been faction rallying this week, so burnt the midnight oil a little bit. Pretty good friends with this ogre on Titan you might have met.
Yeah, we got to ask who you pledged.
I went Future War Cult this time. I think like a lot of people, I'd gone Dead Orbit the time before. My heart kind of belongs to New Monarchy and its shaders, but I think like just about everyone else, I'm just working through an order of the catalysts I most want.
Yeah, loyalties went out the window this season.
Did you hit 50 on DO last one?
Yeah, I did it in 2 days because I was, it was just before E3 and I was flying down to E3 on the Friday. My girlfriend wanted to go to the cinema on the Thursday, so I knew I had like really limited time to do it and would miss it otherwise. So I just kind of just made my peace with the fact that I was staying until the middle of the night. Yeah, it was pretty dark. I was kind of like stumbling into bed at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I only made it to 30, man. I actually just tonight hit 50, and I'm going to try and do what I can on Future War Cult on the next one. It's so much grinding.
You didn't come back to Dead Orbit? Or you did?
I did. Yeah, to finish it up. I had 20 more levels. Man, it is definitely some grindage.
I think if you've got the armor set, I don't think it's too bad. If you don't have the armor set, it makes a big difference. And handily, it was one of the things I hadn't deleted. I'm like a terrible hoarder, like most Destiny players, and I had like a couple of full sets of Dead Orbit last time around, which was lucky.
Well, there was great news from the TWAB this week that if whatever you had in Warmind, you can turn into legendary pieces now.
Yes.
Do you trust that? Like, I'm not ready to press the button until, like, I still feel like I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for day one of Forsaken and check. I want to see the collection manager and what's in it before I start sharding left and right. I mean, I'm not saying like Bungie never, but
yeah, well, and it kind of upset me a little bit because right before Warmind, I majorly cleaned out my vault. So all the stuff that was in there,
saying you were going to do that.
Maybe one day I want to pull out. I'm going to have to re-earn. I don't know. It may not matter really at all one day, but it's still like the collector in me is like, dadgummit, you know.
I've permanently got less than 10 spots in the vault. Like right now, I can tell you I've got 294 things in there, and loads of it is absolute garbage. Like stuff that I just convinced myself that you know, maybe I don't know, like these terrible fusion rifles that I've collected are suddenly going to be meta one day, but.
It's the same, man. I keep all the old like original white gear too, just to keep it.
What?
Like, it's great. Just randomness. My vault is full of just random.
It's going to be almost an erotic thrill the day Forsaken comes out. People are just going to be there in the tower deleting stuff. That's going to be that's going to be the game.
Just mass deletion, especially because you can do it straight from the vault and the postmaster. You know, just sitting there, just
keep talking, holding
down X. You know. Well, and plus we get, you know, well, I guess it's 200 extra slots, which we're really going to need because you can't put any of the new stuff in your collection. So all the new stuff's got to fit in there. Mm-hmm. All those random rolls that you're going to hold on to. Maybe this will be a good roll. Maybe that'll be a good roll. All back to D1 again.
I mean, when was the last time you even looked at the roll on a gun? Like even the faction rally stuff and the Iron Banner stuff is old. Like, I mean, the only time I ever look is to see if something's masterworked, and even then, I'm just kind of waiting to see whether it's 1 or 3 cores.
Yeah, but it's going to change the game up. Well, before we get too far on this tangent, why don't we give our audience a little background on what Tim is like? Tell us a bit about yourself, man.
So yeah, I'm an English guy. You might have picked up the slight accent, but I've been living out in the US for just over 4 years now, I guess coming up to 5. I work on a PC Gamer. I've actually just changed job pretty much this week. So I'm now editorial director on PC Gamer and Games Radar. Games Radar is a multi-format site.
Oh, okay.
So and I'm going to be moving to New York actually as part of that.
Oh, wow.
Next month. But yeah, so I've been on PC Gamer for about 5 years. Prior to that, I was the editor of Official PlayStation Magazine in the UK. So I spent, I guess, I just stopped counting at some point because I'm just so old now and it seems kind of depressing to do it. But I've been kind of writing about games for like over 15 years, mostly on PlayStation, some on PC, and enjoying that very much. Like I kind of found my way into it almost by accident. I'd always kind of wanted, I mean, sure, like a lot of young folk who were into video games, I wanted to work on them in some capacity, and I kind of looked at testing and those kind of routes in. But I had like a degree in English. Did a couple of crappy TV jobs at kind of slightly shonky TV stations, cable channels in the UK, including like a 6-month stint at Playboy TV that my mum was actually very proud of. She was just glad I was working. And then I found my way onto this big kind of .com, like kind of portal site, which had like a sports channel and a video games channel and an environment channel. And the day I joined, the web guy quit, and they were like, "Oh, you've written some stuff." I mean, what I'd written was basically some slightly porny continuity scripts for Playboy, but they were like, "Oh yeah, you know how to write. You can run the website." And then kind of grew it from there, from one man into like a small team, and eventually, joined Future. I can never remember the years now because, like I said, my brain's completely addled by years of video games. Don't believe they don't harm you thing. And I just, Future's a funny company where like if you're one of the people like me who kind of like takes to it, you tend to stay there for a pretty long time.
And Future's the publisher, right?
Yeah. They publish a bunch of things, so like PC Gamer, Games Radar, Edge Magazine. In the UK, they do official PlayStation, official Xbox. But then they do all sorts of other stuff to do with like technology, and
Yeah.
they've always been like a specialist publisher. So lots of kind of serious hobbyist, enthusiast people kind of work there. But it's a fun place to work. It's had like massive ups and downs, like any company. But I've been there long enough not to complain about it. I enjoy it.
Hey, well, that's good. I mean, I know that in game industry is same with games journalism. People move around a lot, it seems, and so to find a place where you've stuck around and found a home is probably a rare thing, I would think.
Yeah, Future in the UK is based on its biggest office in the UK is in a town called Bath out on the west coast, which is a very kind of sleepy, beautiful town. It's the kind of show they shoot like kind of detective shows in, because it's all kind of beautiful kind of scenery and stuff. So like you tend to like, if you go there for a media job, like there's not many other jobs in the media. So I think like it's unusual in that a lot of people tend to stay there. Often, despite the fact the salaries might not be amazing, because really of like love of what you do. Like it's such a privilege to get to, write about something that you love with people who feel the same way about it. I remember the first time I went down there to check the city out, I was walking around the streets with my then girlfriend, and we just heard like a bunch of people discussing like N64 games, and it was like the whole city felt like this kind of nerd sort of nirvana.
That's cool. So tell us about, you mentioned your love of being, you love being able to cover games and things that you love. What was your first gaming experience? What was your genesis as a gamer?
The one I always kind of come back to when people ask kind of how I started out was, I remember going around to a friend of mine's house, and I was at primary school, so I would have been kind of like maybe 8 or 9 years old, I guess. And he had a BBC microcomputer, and we would play Elite together. And we would play it so like one of us would be on the keyboard. Well, we'd both be on the keyboard, but one would be like doing the controls, and the other one would be doing the kind of the weapons and the firing. So it's kind of like rudimentary co-op, like we're both playing the same game at once. And that was the game that sort of really, like, my parents at the time they initially wouldn't get me a computer, because they wanted there to be like educational value. God knows why now. I know my parents better. They've never been like, they weren't usually particularly strict, but they took this sort of like hardline stance that I wasn't going to have a computer in my bedroom. So I would go around to this guy's house, and we would like hang out and play Elite for like absolutely all hours. So I grew up on games like that, and kind of Sensible Soccer and Commodore 64, that sort of stuff, Amstrad. And then obviously, like kind of just games were always with me from then on, really. My parents kind of finally caved in. And then I had like a Mega Drive, which is Genesis over here, and a SNES, and just went through that whole kind of console cycle. Like, I'm old as shit, like, bear that in mind. So I kind of saw them all come and go, like the, Saturn, and remember getting the first PlayStation. I think I was in my second year of university, probably, when the first PlayStation came out, and kind of put my student loan to that rather than into books. And yeah.
I gotta say, we say this every time we have someone on. We gauge your age by the console and the platforms you mentioned. I think this may be a record for us in the.
Oh, I'm pretty old.
Mentioned.
Yeah, I'm pretty old. I'm lucky in that with D2, I play in like on PC it skews older anyway, but like I play in a group who there's one guy older than me, so he runs the clan, so I don't feel too bad.
Yeah, you're not the oldest.
You're not the oldest, yeah. We are not calling you old. We're just saying you're mentioning some old platforms.
I'm calling me old. I'm definitely calling me
old. For gaming culture, we're not exactly spring chickens either.
No, not at all.
So tell us a little bit more about, what your day-to-day is like in your job. So you just mentioned that you're kind of changing roles. But in the recent past as the editor-in-chief, what is that job like?
So running PC Gamer, it's a real mixture of things, but it's essentially like PC Gamer is like a 24-hour operation. I mean, I was mostly focused on the website rather than the magazine. So we have like editors in like all over the US, in the UK, Australia, Canada. So like, without putting like too fine a point on it, I was like, I'm the boss. So like I was essentially, we've got like an amazing team of editors, and like the majority of my role will be to kind of organize and decide what we should be covering and kind of monitor how it was performing and the sort of strategic level stuff. But at the same time, like I've always believed that we should, like everyone on our team should kind of be in the trenches as well. So I would write about, not as much as some of the other guys, but I would write still features and news wherever when it was kind of right to do so. But it was really kind of like, it's a bit like being like an air traffic controller, but you're guiding stories into land rather than planes. So it's much less risky, I guess, would be the first thing to note there. But yeah, I mean, it was varied. Like with a show like E3, there's the kind of thrill of the kind of like the constant buzz of news. We actually at E3 we run our own show as well. We do the PC gaming show. With Sean Plott. So my colleague Evan and I, we spent like the last 6 months kind of doing a lot of work on that, like kind of dealing with lots of developers, and you're sort of trusting them to like kind of give you reveals and stuff to show at the show. We actually tried to get the first PC footage of Destiny 2 last year, but a console company who shan't be named kind of blocked us slightly, stopped us from doing it.
We're letting that happen, huh?
They're a funny bunch when they're on top, that one. So
yeah, we all have our own quarrels with that shall not be named.
yeah. I mean, you only have to see how their exclusivity deals work to get the vibe. But can't blame them. I'd probably do the same if I was them.
Right. Well, they got to control the narrative, and what they want people to see and who sees it and when. But it's funny. I mean, I just have to think about what you do. Like, how do you keep your finger on the pulse, 24/7? Like, do you wake up and you're immediately just like scanning,
I think it's easier than it's ever been because there's so many good, like you look at, the subreddits for big games like Destiny and the kind of content creators who are like looking for kind of leaks and stuff. Like, if anything, like, reporting on games and writing about them it's never been, the internet's made it, just the sharing of information full stop, obviously, like kind of more fluid and constant.
This is almost more crowdsourced and.
Yeah, I mean, like yes and no, like
in the loosest sense.
You treat it like you're a beat reporter. Like if you were covering like a sports team, right? You would follow all the players. You'd follow all the players on Twitter. You'd probably follow the physio and stuff. So you do the same, right? You're following all, like in the case of something like Destiny, I'll read the Reddit. I'll follow all the devs. I'll try and get to know some of them. I know people in PR, obviously at Activision and Bungie, and you just try and, the way we structure PC Gamer is like we have like each of us will be dedicated to 2 or 3 really big topics, and some of those topics will be specific games, like games like League of Legends, which is like or Fortnite, probably the biggest game in the world right now. So we'll have like a writer just dedicated to that game. They won't just do that, but it's their responsibility for.
So they follow it and.
Yeah, you just kind of embed yourself in the scene. So and that's really fun, I think, because that's where like a lot of that's how you'll find. Really interesting stories. I remember like we were covering do you remember there was the whole like XP throttling thing? And we kind of, I think we picked that, I'm sure we picked that up from Reddit, and like, but Bungie was ignoring it at the time, and we ran it on the weekend, and our news guy was chasing up with their kind of PR. And I think because we pushed them quite so hard to get quotes that they came out at that time with that statement, kind of going, oh, whoops a daisy, it's not working quite how we intended.
Right.
Which is certainly one way of phrasing what happened. So yeah, it's exciting to be on a beat like Destiny with, games in 2018 are often or increasingly these kind of huge live services with like, very regular patches, DLC drops, big expansions, small expansions. To use the Fortnite again, you look at how that game's like, just evolving week by week. They're adding new stuff into it. They're taking the stuff out. So there's so much to talk about in a way there probably wouldn't have been in the olden days when it was much more the cycle of, well, you write a news story about something, then you'll do a preview when you get to play it, and then you'll maybe do like an interview, and then you'll come to review it, and then you'll all kind of get on with your lives. Nowadays, you're never going to stop covering Fortnite or Destiny or League of Legends until people stop being interested, right? Because that's
I think about that often. I mean, I think I might have even thought about it again today when we got the TWAB. We get such meaty TWABs now, and it's such a normal thing. And then all the content creators, each, I follow or you follow. And back in the day, I mean, even when I was a kid, it was a monthly magazine looking at what games they were previewing, on the index page.
I had friends who worked on the unofficial Xbox magazines back home, and they were masters at like drawing out tiny tidbits of information from like a single piece of concept art for a new Halo game. Like they would they'd write 1,000 feature word feature on just a picture. But nowadays you're getting like you say, Bungie, how long was that to update? It was probably 2,000-3,000 words at least. And that's a ton of stuff in there, collections, the prestige raids and kind of lockout curated loadouts and stuff. There's so much to kind of get your teeth into. And I think it's been really refreshing to see for all the kind of criticism they've had, much of it well deserved, that they do seem to have really, the penny has dropped in terms of that need to communicate.
Double down on it, yeah. Then within 2 or 3 hours, like you said, I'm getting notifications of all the content creators I followed dropping their coverage on it and picking it apart, and all the little tidbits they've found inside of just the news that we're reading. You're right, it's crazy these days.
Yeah, the news is easily, just the TWAB and anything associated, like, has easily become half of our show every week because there's so much to talk about. And it's great because there's something to talk about because, God, go back to 2 years ago and there would just be these long, just mute periods where you didn't know what was going on. Nothing seemed to be coming next. There, pray for a patch to come, We
got creative in our main topics.
It was the gap between Taken King and Rise of Iron, where there was a point where people were like, is there going to be another expansion? Like, people genuinely didn't know. Nobody
had any idea what was happening. Yeah. That was probably the worst time to cover Destiny. But going back to what you said, I've enjoyed how outlets are doing, like you say, where they have certain writers that consistently cover certain games, because there's nothing worse than seeing an article pop up for a game that you follow and you can tell just how much the writer doesn't get what's going on, right?
Yeah.
They don't understand the topic, or they don't understand the community, or they kind of just covered it surface level, or picked up, they just phoned it in. And so when there's somebody that's actually following a game and they understand it, or they play it and they know what's going on, even if you don't necessarily always agree with their editorialization of something or how they feel about something, I'll at least enjoy seeing the same writers come back and cover a topic, because I trust that they understand it, and it's going to be a well thought out, article, as opposed to just, 1,000 words to cover their, whatever their need was for the outlet. So
and I think that's a good point, and I think so I consider it once we're on a beat like this, like with Destiny 2 in my case, I consider it my responsibility to that if I'm lucky enough to speak to a Luke Smith or a Chris Barrett, that I know what it is the community want to hear about, right? I shouldn't waste that time. I should be trying to get answers to the stuff that's most pressing, whether that's something to do with random rolls or whatever. Nothing kind of more than when people kind of go in and it's just some whimsical kind of masturbatory question that they're interested in. My job is to try and get the answers to what the reader would want to ask, right?
Yeah. And I can attest to that, because you did an interview at E3 after the Forsaken story reveal, and you asked just all the questions you had were some of the exact things that I wanted to know. I was like, oh, he's really thinking about what everybody is thinking about right now. I was like, I can relate to this, and you answered so many great questions. We talked about it on the show, a lot of what you pulled out that week, and so I really appreciated the way that you covered it.
So, sometimes you have to be more polite than you, obviously, because you got to be professional, of course. But sometimes I have to even temper what my actual reaction as a player is. I remember doing the interview, I think, with Luke, and coming onto the subject of random rolls, which is something I felt very strongly about, and wanting to go you guys are crazy. This is crazy to take them out. I don't understand. I don't understand how you're gonna ship this game and the loot not get boring.
Yeah, but you can't just say to their face like you're a lunatic, right?
Well, yeah, you have to phrase it as like I'm very concerned about this decision. We had a similar one. I went up to do a preview before D2 came out, which was in like a hotel in Seattle. We were all kind of just a bunch of journalists just in a big ballroom, just sat around consoles and computers, just kind of playing through the campaign. Mm-hmm. And I remember you couldn't, and I think this is the case in the final game, you couldn't apply shaders until you hit like level 20. Mm-hmm. And I was sat next to a friend of mine and we hit level 20 about the same time. And so I started tinkering around with the menus and stuff. And I was like, oh, when you apply a shader, it removes it and it costs glimmer. And I was so like amazed by what it seemed to me like the stupidity of that versus the D1 system that I asked to speak to someone to try and understand like what was happening, and they had all these kind of like helpers who I think were like the people that hide in or whatever. But they like went and fetched a developer, and he came over and sort of said, "Well, what's the problem?" And at this point, I'd like been playing like for like 10 or 12 hours straight, so my brain was kind of fried. And then I said like, "You guys are crazy," and he went, "What do you mean crazy?" I said like, "People are gonna hate this. They're gonna hate it. Like, why would this possibly be better?" And he looked quite affronted by that and went away and. Obviously didn't care for my feedback. That's how the game shipped. But I've got 700 Avalon Teal in my vault now, so he's the big winner, really.
Oh man, yeah. There's a lot of shader consternations amongst the community, and it's interesting because the new the change that they're gonna make, like that's still tied to the economy. Like you can clear all those out, but to get them out, you're gonna have to pay Glimmer or Bright Dust to get. I'm actually back.
Yeah, I don't mind that too much. Weirdly, I've built up like 20 grand in Bright Dust because I play so much that. Yeah, but I play so much that I tend to like I don't spend money in Eververse. I've just got like even in Warmind, I've got all the stuff from Eververse now without like spending anything on it. Mm-hmm. So now, anytime I get like a prototype engram or whatever, and you're gonna get like half a dozen to 10 probably a week, maybe more. Yeah. Like it all just converts to Bright Dust because I don't keep any non-exotic sparrows or ghosts or anything. So
I saw that in the TWAB today, and I'm actually pretty happy about that system being able to just once you get the shader, you can just go pick it up. I can't imagine it'll be too crazy expensive, and it doesn't cost anything to actually apply it anymore. So it's a way to make it work for the way they implemented it in Destiny 2, since it overtakes shaders as you apply them. But
well, I'm definitely into it because I've run out of Metro Shift, which is definitely my favorite shader. And like, so now I like
Metro Shift, man.
Dude, every Tuesday, like the thing I'm most excited about is test selling Metro Shift. And like it was again, no, the answer was no this week. Last time I think I bought like 50 from them, and I was like, oh, this will last me for ages. But no, it's pretty much all my characters wear. So
I like is it monochromatic? Isn't that the black and white shader?
Yeah, the only thing with monochromatic is I don't love the kind of Kevlar. It gives you that slight texture. Kevlar.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Some of the armor, it shows it more than others.
Yeah,
yeah.
Freemius Blue is a good one. Try that on guns.
Yeah, I like that one. Blue.
Yeah. If you put that on the Escalation Protocol guns, it looks like super sweet. They look like shiny kind of titanium. They look really good in it.
Yeah,
this is the fashion podcast now.
We don't talk about. We spend plenty of time with our Guardians fashion. We don't talk about shaders enough, Cyborg.
I don't know. You tend to bring them up.
Yeah,
often.
True. True. All right.
I don't know, man. The fashion thing was stronger for me in Destiny 1 than Destiny 2. I just have less attachment to my gear in Destiny 2. And we've talked about that a lot, but things don't have as much value for me anymore.
It's subjective, but I just think the gear doesn't look as good, and it kind of hurts me to say that because I do think their art team is generally amazing. But I looked back the other day at like my D1 characters, and I was wearing like the Age of Triumph Crota staff with ornaments on my Warlock. It was looking amazing, and like my Warlock now, I struggle to find a non-exotic helmet that doesn't look just like fugly, like I think I've been using the Iron Banner set recently, but I don't even love that. But like the Hunter hoods as well, like the capes in D1 were incredible. All those speaker capes with nice hoods, nice length, nice patterns, and like these ones are all kind of these angular, just ugly kind of drab
I think a lot of the class items in Destiny 2 need some TLC just across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, Warlock bonds are a shadow of their former self.
Oh yeah, those are beautiful.
Here's what I don't understand. Right, so like I love writing about Destiny. I love playing it. I've never kind of been one to like stop playing it. So all my criticisms come from a place of love. But at the same time, you kind of look at it and go, how do you go from like those Warlock bonds in D1, which are like on fire or holograms and prismatic, and then go, we're just going to make them like a brown band this time. Like I don't get who could be in that. Yeah, who's sitting in that meeting and going, you're right. We haven't tried brown bands. I think that is, that's a fresh new taste. I can't understand it.
At the very least, I've seen one pretty cool looking Warlock bond in the Forsaken press stuff so far that looks pretty dope.
Is that with the crow on it?
Yeah. So if we get anything more like that, if that's just not the only one, I'll be pretty excited. Because they need some love, but even the Titan marks and like you said, the Hunter capes, like there's just a lot of them. Like I think I might have like 3 Hunter capes that I like for my Hunter in total.
The new Monarchy cape's good. The Iron Banner cape with the Season 3 ornament is good, and there's a really boring one called, I think, a cloak called Home, which has a good hood and looks quite good with dark shaders, but the rest are garbage, really.
The Dawning ones might have been kind of cool looking. I have to go back and look.
Oh, the Dawning one is funky. Yeah, it's a big look though. You look kind of. It's got kind of Oriental vibe.
Right. Yep.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's kind of fabulous, but part of what I miss from the Destiny 1 stuff, especially towards like, years 2 and 3, was just how fantastical everything got. And I feel like they've said so much, like they kind of wanted to redefine all the looks of the different classes and their characters and their art design, and I feel like they just reined it in a little too far. Like
I think there was probably an element. I want to try and give them the benefit of the doubt. I think there was probably an element where one of the it's the Red Wall. We've lost our light. The tower's been crushed. They probably felt like going with the gear being kind of ostentatious and fabulous would be the wrong mood. The mood was meant to be sorrowful and kind of a bit more downbeat. But the problem was, you don't want to be downbeat 2-3 years straight. Like, we're happy now. We're doing like fireworks emotes and stuff. We should have like sweet cloaks again. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get them with Forsaken.
And hey, maybe we'll get some cool looking stuff for this upcoming event. I mean, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, the Solstice of Heroes, is that what it's called?
It's the name of it sounds like we should or would.
Yeah, so I expect some fantastic stuff. Well, we haven't talked about like what led you to end up playing Destiny. Like, where did you get into this game?
So I'd always played Halo from back in the day, and I loved.
Okay.
Of the Halo games, like Halo 1, maybe like most people, was my favourite. And Halo, weirdly, was a game that I would play almost like with a similar sort of loop to how you ended up playing Destiny. I would just replay the same missions and try out different stuff just because I loved the feel of the combat so much, and I loved it how open it was. So when I saw, obviously I was interested in what Bungie was doing once they split from Microsoft. And when I saw the presentation, I think like a lot of people that first year at E3, just the fusion of like an FPS with RPG kind of loot in it was such a kind of like intoxicating blend for me, and the idea of this world that would evolve and be shared and you'd be able to kind of dip in and out with other players just seemed like such a... I mean, as a reporter, you're really skeptical, right? You see those things and go, can they really pull this off? Because I don't think anything had been quite like done like that in the FPS space like anyway. And I think from the moment I saw kind of, the Fallen Walker drop in and them inspecting the weapon that we would ultimately realise was Thunderlord, I've always loved like loot and collecting guns. So that was again like a huge draw for me. Destiny is to a degree playing dress up and toy soldiers, and it's almost Pokemon-y, but the guns are the Pokemon.
I've never heard it that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah, well, that was a way people always describe Gran Turismo, right? The cars with the Pokemon. But I think like looter shooters, the weapons are right, which is why I was so kind of aghast when they said they were doing away with random rolls, because I knew they wouldn't be able to make enough to catch, basically. And so it's proved. So yeah, that initial kind of fantasy of like this kind of like, you know, the art, there are, like I said, their art team is incredible as well. I think that again blend of kind of fantasy and sci-fi, also with the whole kind of dilapidated way the world looked. This idea of this kind of sci-fi universe post collapse. I read as a book. My girlfriend bought me, like, she found a copy of it recently, and it was an art book called Space Wreck, and it's about basically crashed spaceships and drifting spaceships in space that have been, you know, part destroyed, and they're kind of these very kind of almost like melancholy but evocative images of kind of sci-fi ruin. And when I saw Destiny, I was like, that's what it is. And I'm sure someone on their team, I think I've talked to someone there about this actually on the art side, I'm sure someone there is like heavily influenced by it, because, you know, when you see the Cosmodrome, it is that book basically. So it really kind of it just ticked so many boxes for me. And then I played the alpha and kind of just never looked back, really. I was just, you know, the first time you pop Golden Gun, you're just like, you know, I still feel like it's one of, you know, like I said, I've been writing about games for 15 years plus, and when I look back, like, Destiny will have been, for all its flaws, one of the defining games of like my life, easily. Like, the experiences I've had from doing Vault of Glass the first time, which is a cliche and everyone says it, to you know, more recently just goofing around with like 8 other people in Escalation Protocol. It's frustrating, because I think, like, as people who are, you know, as people who are kind of into this game and this scene, it's become so hard to evangelize it, I think, because people are now so skeptical, both people who kind of played it in laps and people who've never played it, who've just kind of heard the bad things about it. That, you know, when we write about it on the site, the comments are often really, really negative, even if like the story's relatively neutral, just because people have decided that, you know, Bungie's had too many chances and kind of blown them. And I, like, much as I was kind of like, I've been baffled by a lot of the decisions they made with DT, like, to the point of like sort of substantial frustration. I still think this is a game that come September won't be perfect, but will be substantially better and will keep getting better. It's crazy that they're having to repeat the same cycle as they went through with D1 to a kind of, to a degree, which is essentially trying to salvage something which shipped in a way that it shouldn't have shipped. But I do think it's going to end up being a really good game. The funny thing was, so you were asking earlier what it's like to write about stuff that you're kind of, that you love playing. And one of the reasons I didn't write the review for Destiny is I always felt like I was too close to it. Like, I was too kind of like emotionally invested in the game. I wasn't kind of enough of I just wasn't detached enough. So another guy on the team who also had played a ton of it, but I think was a bit more distant from it, wrote the review, gave it like low 80s, which I still think is correct. And he said, you know, this is 50 to 60 hours of great game, and then after that it stops and there's nothing there. And if you're happy with that, then that's good, because the game feels and looks great. But like, we knew there was this kind of chasmic drop off at the end. Yeah. And what was crazy, it was, you know, seemingly deliberate when you listen to Bungie, that they didn't want people to be dumping hundreds of hours into it to the point of feeling like their social life was suffering, whatever. And you can kind of understand, that on a human level, right? I don't think Activision's accountants would agree with that. Yeah. If I went to my boss and said, I think people are reading the website too much, we should dial it down a bit.
Right. Well, and it's become an interesting phenomena that we talk about, because, you know, diehard players that we know in our community and our friends and ourselves, like, went from, you know, essentially like no-lifing or like solo playing Destiny, and then Destiny 2 happened, and then, you know, like you said, there's that drop, and a lot of people were able to forcibly like break out of that obsession. And even for me as a player of video games, like, I've played more games probably in the past year than I did in the previous 3, and played a lot of fun stuff and stuff that I never would have had time to get my hands on, and, you know, expanded my my scope of what I'm interested in and what I enjoy, and so, you know, it's a good thing, even though it sucked that we didn't get what we wanted out of our hobby, you know. Now I'm worried about the fall, you know, like,
it's crazy too, because it's, you know, every gamer's different too, anywhere from the types of games they like to, you know, their play times and their current status in life, you know, and,
those
you know,
things change.
Yeah, and it's like for me right now, it's great it has been since Destiny came out. It's really great to have one game that I can focus on and just try to sprinkle some stuff in here and there. And then, like you said, Cyborg, it was kind of, everybody's kind of mentioned that, I think, in each of their communities. It's like, well, it was kind of nice to sprinkle some other stuff in for a little bit, but we do want our hobby back. So I think everybody's on the same page. It's like Forsaken, Warmind to now Forsaken. It definitely looks like, oh, how are we going to manage this? It seems like there's going to be so much to do. And Tim, you mentioned, we covered this on the show a couple episodes ago, but I think what was rough for a lot of Destiny fans is it did feel like we were going through the same motions again that we did in D1. We worked all the way through to get to where we were. And even though it was their intention and what they thought we wanted and what they thought they wanted as far as the goals for D2, we're well past that now, and we're getting to the game. And like you said, what looks to be fantastic in September. And, it's just like, I feel like it did take all the way to the point we're at now, but I really feel like going forward from now on, so much has been learned and so much, connection between them and us has happened that it really seems like the future of Destiny is in a really great place. So I kind of wanted to get your thought on that. It's taken a while, but it really seems like now is different than where we were at with D1 at this point, to me, and at least I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with most of it. The fact that it's taken a long time to turn around doesn't surprise me at all. Like, Bungie is a super tanker. There's north of 500 people working on this game. The way production schedules work is you can't just flip a switch and go, now we're going to go back to being hobbyist in time for Curse of Osiris. When I went to see Curse of Osiris, that was a DLC that was in the works before the game even shipped. So the capacity they have to make substantial changes to core systems is almost nil. And you can see that I think they probably took the learnings quite quickly. They probably within a couple of months were seeing what was happening and hearing the feedback, and it's been, I imagine, quite a humbling experience for them. I'm really positive about Forsaken. I feel good about most of the decisions they're making. I would preach some caution still that I don't think there's been a single release that hasn't included things that still blew my mind in a kind of like, why have you done it this way? Like, the game almost has so many potential places they're bound to get some wrong. Like, that's almost human nature.
So many, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at they all interact, and sometimes you can't anticipate what the knock-on effect of one change is going to necessarily be once it gets into players' hands. But you look back at something like, I think it was House of Wolves, when I remember the announcement coming out that they were going to make us like reacquire and re-level every exotic, and I was just thinking, like, this company is insane. Like, I don't understand it. Again, like, going back to the Shader thing, like, who's in a room going, this is our solution, and signing off on it? So there's always in the back of my mind, I think, like a lot of players, we've been burnt a lot of times. Like, I'll say to you now, there will be things in the Forsaken that the community hates. There's bound to be, right? It's just the nature of a big Destiny release. They can't get it right. But I think they can't get everything right. But I think, from all the noises they're making, like, I have really substantial trust in Chris Barrett as well. I think he really gets what it is that the people who've stuck around like about Destiny, which is the slightly more grim, dark, and kind of deep stuff. I think the raid team have barely put a foot wrong. So the fact there's going to be more layers with those smaller DLCs, plus a new, all this stuff with the Dreaming City really intrigues me. I think, what we loved about the Dreadnought was it was, full of those kind of Easter eggs and little kind of mini quests to explore. I'm hoping for more of that. I mean, the thing going into D2 is you just wanted it to be D1, but like even deeper with even more customization and even more to find. And like, they went the other direction. It just feels like when the history looks back at it, they will go like, that was one of the all-time craziest decisions a big developer made, in my opinion. I think that's one of the reasons the game is so interesting to cover, because I find Bungie as a studio so fascinating. Their culture, their kind of history, but also like just the way they operate just blows, sometimes blows your mind in a good way, but other times, not so good. But yeah, I'm an old guy. I don't like I wouldn't describe myself as getting hyped about things, but I still play a lot of this game and kind of can't wait to jump. And like I said, I'm grinding out the faction running in 2 days still, so like I'm not. For some reason, I don't burn out. I do seem to be. It sounds like you guys have a much healthier approach than me. You've probably been playing more new games than me recently.
Well, there's something about Destiny too, though, because it's been my main game since the alpha, and at least I could tell it had the potential to be my main game, and it's there's something about it that just and for me in particular, it sounds like for you and of course Cyborg too. It just works. It's the kind of game I like to play. It fits my play times well, it fits my play style well, and something about it is just great. And I mean, obviously a lot of people feel that way, and we're very passionate about the game. And to add to it, just fitting in little nuggets of the TWAB, we literally were just talking on probably two episodes ago about what we would like to see happen with the ranking systems. And the TWAB comes out today and literally is exactly what Cyborg and I were hoping that what we would like to see happen with the ranking system. And it's the Valor applying to all the different types of PvP, and the Glory being match made by your Glory score, not the current matchmaking system we're used to. And just to wrap that all up, it's just fascinating to see how much they're listening and they're doing, because obviously we weren't the only ones to say that, but how much they're pulling from the community and now how fast they're reacting to it. Because of course, they had great intentions with the ranking system, but then they're like, oh, you know what they're saying makes sense. Like, let's talk about this for a minute, and then boom, they implement it into the game. A couple weeks later, it's pretty great. So
yeah, I think some of that must have come as well though from like I suspect the competitive numbers are pretty shocking, like in terms of that player base. And like, I mean, going back to what you said, like it's not like they put things like this out ever. They're not doing it to make you sad or to make you not enjoy their game. Like that would be self-defeating, not to put too fine a point on it. But I still, going back to what I said about it's hard to understand how some decisions get made. Like who sat in that room and said like loss streaks are gonna expand exponentially,
right?
Until you get a factor of
exactly.
5. Like I play a lot of Hearthstone, and I know I've written about ladder anxiety and stuff before about you've seen it from games as far back as StarCraft, right? People just are scared to hit Q because they don't want to lose the progress they've made. So like, to have such a punitive system in a mode that you're asking people to then grind for a really desirable reward, to me seems like absolutely bonkers. But yeah, I agree. Like the stuff in the 12 was all changes for the better. I don't know that they're changes that are going to get me in trying to grind for a Claymore, because I think I'm just not good enough for that.
I'm pumped about the Glory matchmaking you on your Glory score. Now, I will say I was searching in those sentences for the decreasing of your score maybe to go away or not be so substantial, which they are doing some stuff with the streaks. But it's like every time you play Glory and you see your rank go down, it's like, oh, come on, this is painful.
Yeah, I just quickly say, I was playing Escalation Protocol 2 nights ago, and one guy jumped in from the group I play with regularly, and he was like, oh, I've just been playing competitive. And we were like, how was it? And he went, it sucked. Like, he'd been playing for like hours and lost like 6 games in a row.
Yep, it's painful like, sometimes, big time.
Yeah, several of my friends have been on the grind, since the start of the season, and I've seen their ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it just makes me want to not go near that. Like, as nice as it would be to get a Redrix's, I'm like, I just remember like, year 1 and even year 2 of Destiny, when I played Trials and the emotional ups and downs of dealing with that. And I don't miss that one bit. I'm going to be frank. Like, I enjoy being competitive and stuff, but I get pretty passionate about the wins and losses. And I just remember like some nights like going to bed at 3 a.m, just crushed, just absolutely raging. Crushed, losing that 8th game or 9th game or whatever. It just, I don't know if I can do it.
I mean, I don't think I always look at what shot me in the kill feed, and I don't think I've been killed by a claymore once. I tend to play like Iron Banner, and then I'll do like the call to arms on 3 characters, while that mattered for the engrams, but I don't tend to PvP otherwise. And I don't think I've been shot by a claymore once. They can't be. Well, certainly not the people who matchmate with me haven't got claymores. Put it that way.
There can't be that many.
I don't think so. No.
Well, I want to bring it. I want to bring it back around to Forsaken real quick before we run out of time, because you got to cover it at E3 a bit. Just as a player, how did you feel about the big story reveal?
I thought a few things. I so like I was surprised they put it out in the way they did, which is as a story trailer. But then I guess their intention is spoiler warning, I guess. Like I'm going to talk about like what I saw in the story mission at E3, which is slightly different to what was in the story trailer. So the way the story mission works is it's kind of like the first bit of D2 where you're kind of, fighting through the tower and stuff, but except this time you're fighting through the prison of elders, and Petra's there talking to you, and Cade's obviously there doing his thing. You see him like, golden gunning people and flipping nades over his shoulder and being kind of generally, we know and some people love. And I guess it's going to be kind of like a funny emotion, but not funny ha-ha for players when they come to that bit, because they're going to, the most obvious piece of foreshadowing ever. They know where this is all heading. And then, so when we were playing it, it was, typical tightly done D2 story stuff, very kind of manicured. The Prison of Elders was much more interesting than it was in D1. Like, it's the architecture of it and the kind of verticality of it was much more interesting. But then it kind of dipped to black and came back with Cade on the ground, but it's just Aldrin with him, like the Barons aren't there. So it's a much more actually like intimate moment, and it felt much more kind of melancholy. I think it's really well done. I think it's bold for a series as big as Destiny to kill off such a kind of iconic character. Can't think of many games that have done that recently. I do wonder how much of it was that they didn't want to pay Fillion. I suspect it was probably a marriage of the two things. They probably didn't necessarily want to keep Fillion around, and they knew if you come from a position of maybe that was going to be too expensive a thing to have, then it becomes an easier thing to go, all right, we're going to lean into this whole revenge thing, and then the idea of kind of, getting our own back because of this huge kind of loss. Maybe that's not giving them enough credit. When I spoke to Chris Barrett, he seemed like up front they knew they wanted to do something really dramatic to kind of set the stakes higher. And I think definitely having a boss who can speak and be an antagonist that we can much more kind of hate in inverted commas is going to be really interesting. So I really liked that they're doing something that's a bit darker. But they have to deliver.
I was going to say, marketing aside and what they accomplished very successfully, it seems. How do you feel about us knowing that now when we knew it versus us experiencing that as we played the campaign?
I think in a funny way, it would have been it would have been really exciting for it to drop, but it would have been spoiled so quickly, so widely.
Yeah, true.
Right.
And I think the fact they wanted, and it might have felt really abrupt, because I think it's going to be basically the first thing that happens to you. You're going to play 10 minutes of mission or whatever, and then he's going to be gone. I think it really is I think he'll die, and then the word Forsaken will come up on screen. I think it's going to be that kind of moment. Do you know what I mean? Really a tone-setting thing. Yeah, exactly.
Pretty intense,
yeah, they're going to bust out of the prison. He'll be dead, and then it's kind of you're on this pretty cool revenge mission. So
it's just getting me excited.
Yeah, how terrible would it have been if you don't, say it's launch day and you don't get off work and you have to go home and play when you get off work. And before you make it home, you just run across, oh yeah, Cade's dead. And you're just
oh yeah,
what? What? At least this puts everybody on equal footing going into it,
Well, and maybe there's more big spoilers in there, right, as well. We don't know.
Absolutely. We don't.
There may be other big story beats.
My biggest question is what is the circumstance in which Cade makes that sacrifice, right? Because you're
not there with him when he dies, because he has this sad line of any minute, my body's going to come rushing through the door and kill you all, right? And,
Right.
You don't come rushing through the door. So I don't know, like, I don't know how whether he's been kind of like ambushed or he's like kind of been trying to hold off. Like he's had to, like you say, I don't know if it is a sacrifice. I don't know if he just gets kind of taken out. Like,
that's the question. Like, what is the situation in which a guardian that can revive himself doesn't get to do that? You know, like, what are the odds?
His ghost is dead, right?
Yeah.
His ghost gets killed, so.
And what is the circumstance in which he allows that? Like, he's given up at that point, you know, like he's beaten and bruised, but every guardian can heal himself. So like, there's got to be, I think there's got to be more to it, you know, like
I think I heard people saying if he'd have worn the Wormhusk crown.
There you go.
And maybe I'm looking for too much,
step out of there.
but I just think that there's got to be more to why it's happening.
How he's ended up at that point.
I don't know.
I mean, I think you're right. I think the reason they dipped it to black is not to save time. There's something I think they wanted to hold that back, like how it happens. So I think there will still be an element of surprise to it. And yeah, we'll all have to stay off Twitch and Reddit until we get home and play it for ourselves.
I have the day off.
Vacation day is on the books.
I'm very unprofessional. I'll probably take the day off and like leave it to the other guys to cover it for the first day.
There you go. So, you know, you talked about some of the things you're excited for with Forsaken. You got to play, I'm sure, Gambit alongside that story mission. What did you think of Gambit?
I like Gambit a lot. Like I mentioned before, like I'm not especially like I don't mind PvP and I can kind of look after myself in there. But like I'm much more a PvE guy and I like doing group stuff. And I think it's PvE with kind of a dash of PvP. Mm-hmm. And I initially thought because I'd seen the trailer and was interested in it. But I kind of thought, well, I don't want to be the one who goes through the portal and then everyone's like laughing at me or I like shame myself in front of my buddies. But once I got in there, like you get so pumped up and, you know, you've got like a full super and a shotgun with a kind of full clip of ammo and the portal pops and you're just like, you know, fuck it, I'm going through. And a couple of times I got like, you know, multiple kills and then came back and it like felt like amazing. I think one thing that's going to be really key is that the loot pool is interesting and they've said, you know, it's going to have that exotic hand cannon tied to it. And it is going to have its own gear. So that gear being desirable, I think will be key because however fun the mode is, you know, we're all kind of, you know, I decide how I spend my time in Destiny based on kind of the loot I'm going to get because that's the kind of player I am.
Right.
We were using in there like, because it had the new weapon loadout system both for the story mission and for Gambit. So you could have like, you know, double shotguns, all that sort of jazz. And the rocket launcher they had, and I think they said, the Gambit weapons will be random roll, but the rocket launcher that we were all using had like tracking and cluster bombs on, and was still like high impact. So like it might be, or high blast radius, I should say. But I think it's probably like if you get that roll to drop, that'll be the end for your sins of the past. Finally, yeah. Good night, curtain call. It was fun knowing you. So yeah, just being able to like, I mean, dude, it felt good like having a shotgun in your secondary and then like some other heavy, like going back to that D1 feel, you know, or a sniper in your secondary. The bows were fun. I didn't spend enough time with bows, I think, to get a sense of their power level or whether they'll be truly competitive, but they're certainly cool to fire. They feel good. Like pretty much everything in Destiny feels good. I think Gambit's just going to be a lot of fun. It's really hard to be able to say like what the longevity of it will be. So I wouldn't want to speculate on that, but yeah, I think I'd be surprised if people don't go nuts for it.
That seems to be the general consensus is like everybody thinks it's a blast that's played it. You know, I think they got an award for it from E3 from somebody. I can't remember. I saw it on Twitter. You know, Arrow played it and he enjoyed it a lot. You know, I think what I like about it is it's going to kind of marry, you know, that PvE and PvP where everybody can kind of get the rocks off and enjoy it. And I think it's going to get a lot of playtime just because you can pull all types into it. And so I'm looking forward to a lot.
It's like, I mean, obviously made from scratch for Destiny by the Bungie team. You know, it's like you said, it's bringing all types of Destiny players together in one activity. So That's a pretty big deal for the game.
I like the idea. I like the idea that there'll be like scope for good teams to really kind of like lean into synergies as well. If you look at like what people are doing in Escalation Protocol with like tractor cannons and melting points and the EP shotgun and stuff like that, you're going to be able to pull off those kinds of synergies against the AI enemies, and then you have like one guy in the team who's like the Crucible guard who's hopping through and like wiping the other team.
Yeah,
I think that's going to feel really fun.
Yeah. It didn't hit me at first either, but after playing it and then watching more and more people play it and just seeing the coverage on it, it's like, it's its own thing, but it's kind of neat to see little bits of elements of course, first person shooter, a little bit of tower defense, a little bit of, there's just little bitty, there's a little bit of kind of feel like obviously way different, but like a MOBA or something. Like it's just its own thing, and it's really cool.
There is a bit of MOBA in there. I think that's a good comparison. It's kind of like working on creeps and making sure you're farming efficiently. I think that's definitely a good comparison.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
Well, now we should do something we call the little derp lightning round, where Arrow's going to ask you some questions we ask every guest that our listeners like to know.
Yes. Are you ready, Tim? No pressure. Favorite class?
I've been more ready. Warlock.
Yes. Oh, Cyborg must have known.
Got a new Monarchy Warlock on the show.
All right. Favorite weapon?
D1 or D2?
Both.
D1 it'd be Hawkmoon. D2 I'm a scout rifle guy and I'm really liking Niflheim Frost, which is the Bray one with kill clip.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about Polaris Lance?
I think it's really fun and cool and not as bad as people seem to insist it is, because they don't understand. I think people get it. This is not a quick answer, is it? I think any talk of it being a PvP weapon and high impact scouts are missing the point. It's a DPS weapon. It's about just hitting chains and chains of hits. Because once you get factoring the explosive round, the DPS I think is fine. That said, I don't have it equipped on any of my characters right now.
Fair enough.
Okay. Favorite Destiny character?
Erismorn.
Yeah. All right. Favorite games besides Destiny that you're playing right now?
Hearthstone is the game I spend most of the time on.
All right. Cyborg, you want to take these last two very important questions?
Sure. What are your favorite chips?
Oh,
American
does that mean like
chips.
crisps?
Not
American
crisps.
chips.
Crisps.
There's a flavor called New Orleans Hot Voodoo or something that I get in SF that's really nice. They're actually not as hot as they sound. They're kind of like a tomatoey spice. They're really good.
Who makes them?
I want to say the company name might be Voodoo. I don't have a bag of them here, unfortunately.
They're not Zaps, are they?
I don't think so. They might be though.
Okay.
Is that bad? Is that bad if it?
No. So Utz owns a company called Zaps, and Zaps is like a local, to me, because I live in Louisiana, they're a local chip company, and they have a flavor called like Voodoo barbecue or something like that. That's why I thought about it when you said
I'm googling that now, and it looks. They do a Cajun one, which I've eaten, which are very good. So maybe it is those.
Has a black bag, I think.
Yeah, with some voodoo dolls.
Maybe I'll send you some. You can try them out and tell me what you think if you like those flavors.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, the big one. Does pineapple belong on pizza, Tim?
Hell no. Hell no.
Man, you're
like
not. 3 for 3. You're having back. Sorry to all you pineapple lovers. We know there's some out there. We love you, but we just don't like pineapple on pizza. Well, Tim, I think this is going to wrap it up because our time is up. But it was a pleasure to have you on, man. It was fascinating to hear about what you do and your love for Destiny and everything in between.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure to talk to you too. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find you if they want to talk with you or consume your content?
You can find mine and other people's words about Destiny 2 on PCGamer.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Timothy D. Clark. No E on the Clark.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, boys.
All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed that interview. As you could tell, Tim is quite the Destiny player. That's pretty obvious. He enjoys the game very much. So I've been covering a long time, like Cyborg mentioned previously, and we're glad to have him on. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very cool.
Yeah, he was a fun guy to talk to.
Yeah.
And you don't get to talk to guys in the press every day that cover games and get to hear their perspective on things,
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool. We'll hope to have him back again sometime soon.
For sure. Yeah, it's neat to hear the how passionate they are about a particular game, and also how passionate they are about representing the community that plays that game. That's really neat. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, before we run out of time, I got to ask you, obligatory, how was your reset?
Oh, dude, my reset. I fit in some Destiny this week. I'll give you the bullet points. Milestones galore. Got 2 characters now, so I'm trying to balance that. It's weird having 2 characters again. 3, I keep looking at my Warlock, and I'm like, let's just start it. Why not? Let's go back to the D1 days where I had one of each class. But Dead Orbit, I went Dead Orbit again, man, because I had 20 levels left to get my Graviton Catalyst. So all this Future War Cult stuff, totally respect it. Big movement going on right now. I do want that sidearm, so I would be fine paying $50,000 for a sidearm next week because I want that Kill Clip sidearm. But I wanted my Graviton Catalyst, and I did finish that up tonight, actually. So
awesome.
Yep,
now
so I'm working on that.
Unlock the catalyst, right?
Right. Yep. Another layer. It feels like we're leveling up our icebreaker again, way back in the day. But more fun.
I heard word is as well that if you aren't able to get these from the faction rallies, that you'll be able to get these another way later.
Somehow, yeah. What was that DMG that sent a tweet out or something? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. So that's good news.
Which is good to know, yes.
Yeah.
That's very good to know, because Sunshot, maybe, possibly not for me, because I don't know how I'm going to do it without a full set with one more event to go, and then Sweet Business. I don't know. That's not even on the radar.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would even. That's not possible, actually. There's no way I can get Sweet Business Catalyst. But anyways, another full Escalation Protocol completion this week. We got 5 in a patrol, maybe 6 before we finished. Yeah. I did actually have a key this time, so it wasn't just about the friend game.
Oh, that's good.
And I got the Titan Mark, which is actually a pretty cool Titan Mark. I like the very minimalistic, Titan Mark. So I was pretty happy with that.
That's really cool.
And then the final thing, the most exciting thing this reset, our buddy Cool Guy, which maybe we'll have on the show sometime. He does some great YouTube videos, weapon reviews and stuff. And he did a review on the Flash and Thunder grenade launcher. It's like the pull the trigger, hold, then release to detonate type of grenade launcher. And I want to say it's like 90 rounds per minute or something, grenade launcher. And dude, I've been using it for about the last week and a half. And it is like the No Land Beyond all over again. It just immediately clicked. Played some Crucible matches last night, saved like 5 or 6 games. Had to go make a little like 2.5 minute mini Taj because I had so much fun with this thing, dude. I don't know if you've used these grenade launchers much. They're very intimidating because they don't feel very powerful. They don't feel very effective. You don't hear about a lot of people using them. But just go watch Cool Guy's video on it. Go check out my mini Taj if you want on YouTube. They are fun. Have you used them at all?
I have, and I actually have one in my vault because I knew that they were going to make a resurgence. Like somebody's going to, these are a sleeper, it's obvious that they can be good, but somebody's going to pick them up, so I held on to a couple that do that. And, they're fun to play with. They just, it's a skill weapon. Like it takes some, you got to figure out how to use it right. And it's very situational, but, I'm glad to hear you had a good time with them.
Dude, it's one of those things, for everybody's different. Everybody's play style is different. This thing, like in LB, it just clicked for me. And, what you can do with them, even if you're not trying to get direct hits, it's all about the assists. If you're banking those things off of walls and just getting some damage, you probably will get some damage. A lot of people run in teams, as we know, and your teammates, of course, clean them up because you're taking half, they're taking their shields down, whatever. But what surprised me the most is I was just trying to get crazy fun bank shots, and before I knew it, when we were playing last night, a couple games in, you can very quickly figure out, because you fire from the hip a lot, I started to get a lot of direct hit immediate kills, and it's hard not to be entertained and laugh when that happens. Like, it is just hilarious, and it's fun. You guys got to try there's several options, but Flash and Thunder is the one in particular I'm using. My next thing, dude, I've not used the Fighting Lion much in D2, but I really want to do a dual setup.
Oh wow.
With these grenade launchers, just to see what happens. I haven't tried it yet, so keep you posted.
All right.
Keep you posted. What about you, man? You been playing anything this week? You've been sick.
I literally have not played a single video game since we talked last.
Which was only like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah. I mean, I was like laid up in bed for you're sick when you can't even bring yourself to pick up the console, because that's something you can do when you're sick, right?
Yep.
But I like it. Maybe if it was like set up in my bedroom, I might have, but like I couldn't bring myself to go sit in my office and I was that miserable. Like, I just want to lay down. I just wanted to be asleep in bed. So, So once again, your co-host has not played Destiny this week, but he is going to make up for it.
You got a little bit to grind. Are you going to finish out you did Dead Orbit last time too, right?
I gotta either I gotta pick up a new faction and grind it to 50, or I gotta finish out Dead Orbit. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably, with how little time I have left, I'm probably gonna finish out Dead Orbit, get my Graviton, and I have another World Ornament, and then I will pick up another faction last one, try to get to 50 if I can.
That works.
It's probably gonna be the plan.
Well, we're glad you're feeling better,
bad,
buddy.
Says
glad you're feeling
better. But yeah, I'm almost better now, so I should be back at it this weekend if I can get caught up on everything. Well, Derp Fam Discourse is a thing we do sometimes. We're running out of time this week though, so maybe next week we'll have some of your favorite moments from 3 years of Derp, or if you've got any feedback on what's coming this summer, or our interview with Tim, we'd love to hear what you think. So send us an email, destinyresetpodcast@gmail.com or speakpipe.com/destinyreset. And then patrons. We got any new patrons this week?
No new patrons this week, but we're coming off of 2 episodes. We got 6 in the last 2 weeks, so thank you guys.
Thank you to everyone that continues to be a patron. If you don't know what that is, go to patreon.com/destinyreset, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the production budget of our show. Help us cover all the little fees, like hosting fees and website and all the things that go into producing this show. And we really appreciate you for it. You also get a few benefits, like a shout out on the podcast. You get your gamer tag on our website and an invitation to a Discord channel just for our patrons and supporters.
There you have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Where
it.
can people find you, Arrow?
You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at AER0KNIGHT with a 0. What about you, man?
Wonderful. You can find me at CyborgSasquatch on Twitter and Mixer. And then finally, you can find us at Destiny Reset on Twitter and DestinyResetPodcast.com, your source for all things DRP, including the links to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app of choice. Thanks for all your iTunes/Apple Podcast reviews. Got some new ones this week.
We did. We got 2 new 5 out of 5s. A shout out to Malcadon.
Thank you.
Some other Guardian who didn't leave a written review but gave us 5 out of 5. We thank you very much.
Oh, so nice.
Yes.
On the climb to 200.
Yes.
Very close. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go drop some stars. Helps us get seen by more listeners who want to hear about Destiny.
Well, Cyborg, I don't know that it is after 2 in the morning. I think this is like a streak for us over the last many weeks. We're not going to bed too early on recording nights. But that's all right. You need to get some rest.
I'm gonna go to bed now.
You're like, as soon as we stop recording, just go lay down. I know what you needed to do.
Going to sleep.
All right, guys. Until next week, have fun playing Destiny 2 and take care, Guardians.